TradeSquare is Australia's first business-to-business marketplace connecting people, brands and organisations into this diverse ecosystem in a unique global landscape. Through pivoting, transforming and reshaping, Australian businesses have an opportunity to create the model for the future that aligns with the world's needs and leveraging the power of a collaborative approach. Through the TradeSquare podcast, we will bring together dynamic, diverse and thought-provoking leaders from business, government and organisations to have conversations to further enable new thinking for the future. Welcome to TradeSquare, Australia's leading business-to-business marketplace. I'm Catherine Vandermeulen, and joining me on today's podcast is Ricardo Cestari from Inaya Mindcheck. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
It's Inaya Mindcheck, by the way.
Inaya Mindcheck. Thank you for clarifying that for us.
That's okay.
So tell us, who is Ricardo?
Well, I'm a father of two kids, beautiful kids, Alexander and Sophia. I'm a husband as well to Michelle. She's an awesome biomedical scientist doing clinical research for several diseases that need to be cured. I've also, professionally, I've been a manager, executive, consultant, entrepreneur, but always in between the areas of business management, applied psychology, and technology. I kind of like to bring these three areas together because I believe they can change the world better than anything else.
That's a really interesting cross-section. Can you break those three components down for me a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can start from my education. I mean, my academic education. I first went to business school in Brazil. I'm from Brazil originally. So I did Fundação Getúlio Vargas, which is a business school in Brazil. Then I moved to Australia in 2002, and I did grad courses in applied psychology and two masters actually in IT management and e-commerce. So most of my products and my businesses and the businesses I work with, they are in this intersection. They kind of ally psychology and business. I've worked as a manager and executive, and almost all of them have used technology to leverage things. One, for example, is GoOne. GoOne is a famous Australian startup. I was one of their first employees, and I helped them build the customer success department that uses a lot of psychology with customers and business practices, but always implementing the system, always working with the software with it. And then I created the HR area there, HR for them. So basically always psychology, business and technology, bringing it all together.
Nice combination. So tell us about the work that you do at Inaya Mindcheck.
Yeah, so Mindcheck, Inaya is kind of a brand that we created recently to kind of cover Mindcheck and a few other services that we are developing. But Mindcheck was the original project. It was something that I created on my weekends while working at GoOne. And I realized, as a head of HR, I realized that not only myself, but a lot of people might have been having problems with anxiety or depression. And I have personally had problems throughout my life with anxiety. I've had generalized anxiety disorder. I had panic attacks when I was younger. And I've always had to manage anxiety. And depending on the period of my life, that anxiety level was very hard to deal with, while other periods was not very hard. So when I was here dealing with kind of trying to control my anxiety, I went to the doctor in Australia and to a psychologist, and they gave me this test, the Depression, Anxiety, Stress Scales questionnaire. And I found it very interesting because I had studied psychological tests at the university. So I decided to take that test and I put it online for people to self-assess so they can, for free and anonymously, obviously, so people can understand their own levels of stress, anxiety, and depression. And with a good communication and a lot of good evidence-based information to link people towards seeking help, to educate them and to kind of motivate them to seek help. Because a lot of people don't seek help. They don't understand what they have. And if they think they have a mental health problem, they have that stigma. So we wanted to break that stigma and motivate, nudge people to seek appropriate help, which is go to see a doctor or a psychologist for proper treatment, for proper activities around it. So I developed the website, mindcheck.me. I put it online in the end of 2018, I think. And so far, we've been growing quite a lot. I mean, it's a free service. People from all over the world use this. Over 15 or 20 countries have used it. So we have, in total, over 250,000 people have taken a test in MindCheck. About 10,000 people per month currently. And people love it. It's just good information, good awareness for people. And hopefully we are nudging them to seek help. By the comments that we receive, a lot of people find it useful.
You know, the idea of well-being, and particularly within organizations, is such a big, broad subject. It's a bit like sustainability. The word sustainability, it can mean so many different things to so many people, to different people. What does the word well-being actually mean in this context to you?
Well-being, obviously, I have I lean towards mental health because that's my area. But well-being in general is physical and mental well-being, and that includes a whole heap of things in your life. If take the mental well-being, for example, we have a questionnaire that's called the contributing factors question that we developed ourselves, and it measures 19 contributing factors for good mental health, for depression, anxiety, and stress. And these range from financial problems, loss of hope, work problems, being lonely, relationship issues, focus on material values in social media, not exercising enough, sleep. So we measure 19 contributing factors. So well-being needs to be thought as kind of this portfolio of factors that you need to take care, that you need to be aware, and you need to educate yourself. So you can keep yourself physically and mentally in a good state of health, basically.
And so why is the role of an organization so important in supporting a holistic approach to well-being?
Because organizations are a big part of our lives, our people's lives. We spend like at least 8 hours a day at work. Many people do spend more these days, which is crazy. And many of these contributing factors, there are evidence-based contributing factors for good mental health or bad mental health. They are work-related, either directly or indirectly. For work issues alone, which is one of our contributing factors, there are several sub-factors there. They include the workload, include the effort-reward imbalance. If you perceive that your effort is not being rewarded properly, for example, at work, good leadership practices, how is your relationship with the boss, and several other work factors that impact directly into people's mental health. But there are other factors as well, such as financial issues. I mean, if you're not receiving enough, a good enough salary, for example, or remuneration, it impacts in many other areas of your life. Like financial issues or financial problems are one of the biggest contributors to bad mental health. It also contributes in the relationship side of it. If you cannot pay your bills, for example, usually your relationship with your other partner gets impacted. And so forth. Also, relationship problems outside of work might generate some mental problems that can impact work. And any other contributing factors that we measure, for example, that are not work related can also impact on work because it's a person's life, isn't it? The work is part of life.
Absolutely. We have one life, right? So how has the role of MindCheck changed over the last 18 months to be having further impact?
It's changed quite a lot. I mean, we are still a startup, and the mental health is still a highly stigmatized topic. Obviously, people are more they talk more about it these days, but it's very hard to change people's stigma, especially at the workplace. So we started with this free mental health self-awareness platform, which is still free and anonymous, that people can go there and take the test and understand and get education around it. And we created, over time, we created MindCheck as a social enterprise. So we need to create a product to sell, to support the business. And we created MindCheck for organizations, which is a platform for businesses to measure internal mental health and to measure the contributing factors and to get an idea on what are the initiatives they can create to improve mental health. But we've been trying to sell it to organizations, and it has been very hard because businesses are still too afraid to measure mental health internally. There are too many concerns around duty of care, around legal liability, and that fear is blocking so many good initiatives that can be implemented to improve people's lives. So it's very few organizations that have an enlightenment, let's say, have like people who are courageous enough to face the problem, to surface the problem, and to work towards fixing it. It is, mental health, let's say every single organization today, statistically speaking, if you take public statistics, every organization these days will have people with depression and anxiety internally. It's just numbers. They will be there. But you either try not to see it, or you go there and try to help. You try to see it, try to help these people. What businesses are trying to do these days is just trying to kind of put a blanket on it and give kind of side initiatives, which help a little bit, but they don't focus on the root of the problem. Initiatives such as Are You OK Day, which is very important to bring awareness, or just put a phone number there for people to call a psychologist, is also very important, but they're not nearly enough to help with the mental health problem. So we've been trying to find features and products in the organizational sense that can help break that people and get more people like seeking proper help and getting treated, because mental health problems are treatable problems. They are illnesses that can be treated. For example, generalized anxiety disorder, you can treat that. Depression as well. But we have been moving now more towards public health because we have interest from, for example, the Malaysian government and Brazilian government and also the government of Bahrain to launch public mental health campaigns that will use MindCheck, for example, to have the public test themselves or check themselves or get awareness around the condition, and using the proper workflow, we will guide people towards the appropriate official tools and features and services for helping these people out. So it is a lot of opportunity in that sense. We can also impact a lot of people going to the public health sphere, and yeah, hopefully they'll do all right.
And so what's a key message that you are super passionate about within all of this space that you are championing through your sector?
I guess the message is that people need to increase their mental health literacy. We need to work towards decreasing the stigma, which is still very, very high, even though all this talk around mental health is real. When the time people need to act on it is still very, very low. And also business practices, they need to change. We see a lot of businesses still impairing a big workload on people. A lot of businesses still not training leadership or choosing emotional intelligent leaders enough to properly work with mental health internally. So yeah, a lot of business practice need to change. But I guess the big message is to increase mental health literacy and decrease stigma. That is what we need to do, I guess.
You mentioned emotionally intelligent leaders. Can you share more about what an emotionally intelligent leader is in the 21st century?
Yeah, sure. So we have the proper definition by the guy who coined the term, Daniel Goleman. They have emotional intelligence has 4 areas. One is self-awareness and understanding your own emotions and self-regulation as well, and doing stuff that you that makes you kind of that's good to yourself. And the other area is do this to others, understand other people's emotions, and also how to treat other people's to achieve what you want and to create a good environment, let's say. So it is the same, I guess. Good emotion. There are leaders who have this sensibility around the other people. They have empathy around other people, and they can create practices, create work practices or relationship practices that will create well-being as well as results for the organization. So it's a good balance there, and can be achieved. There's lots of good emotionally intelligent leaders out there, and women usually are better than men in that. But by the way, there is a good video, a TED talk from an organizational psychologist that says, what is the title of the video? Why we promote egoistic white men instead of women to leadership positions, something around that. I'll send you the link. It's a really good TED talk that shows why people get impressed by confidence and boldness, while good leaders are not really like that. Good leaders are people who listen, that include everyone, that can take measured, thoughtful approaches to things.
So just on that topic of emotionally intelligent leaders, last year I read a book called One Life, How We Forgot to Live Meaningful Lives by Morten Albeck, who's a Danish author and philosopher. And he talks about, we know we need IQ in an organization. We need to have those skills. We need to have that knowledge to create that impact. We now know that we need that emotionally intelligent leadership. Now what he is looking at is MWQ, meaningful work quotient. And how do we take the IQ, the EQ, and create that depth of meaning, which encompasses purpose, belonging, personal growth, and then the leadership that brings those things together. So I think as we project into the future, it's not only about having that those dimensions of emotional intelligence in our leadership, but also creating that meaning within the organization under wonderful and meaningful leaders who do have that IQ, that do have that EQ, as well as that MQ.
Yeah, the purpose is extremely important. It's actually one of the contributing factors that we measure in MindCheck. It is one of the key areas there, but it needs to be balanced with other areas as well. We have like big organizations with a lot of purpose. Tesla, for example, is one that has a lot of purpose, but we still see people who are overworked or who are not going to good leadership practices, even within those organizations. That have a lot of purpose around. So purpose is essential, but also the other areas, the IQ and EQ need to be present there as well. It needs to be a trifecta there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And so companies have been focused on their team's well-being has only been amplified during COVID. What are some of the key steps that organizations can take to support their team?
First is understand people's workload. Just keep an eye on it because a few people they might try to work more than less, or they will not spread the workload throughout the week, for example, in an appropriate way. It might get stressed at the end, or because we are not interacting with people all the time. Like the people might assign a lot more than can be done within the work. So that's very important to understand. Also, we need to understand companies and leaders need to understand that each individual copes with things differently, and they need different approaches of leadership. There is no, you need to adapt your leadership style to each person that you manage. It's not one for all, certainly, because people are different. And they have different needs. And I guess just having emotionally intelligent leaders and leaders with that like sense of purpose and emotional intelligence that can have empathy and understand other people and adapt themselves and adapt to the other person's needs, as well as getting the results the organization has to have.
So this year, TradeSquare has been connecting to people who choose to challenge, really challenging that status quo in their roles. How do you choose to challenge, Ricardo?
I guess I'm challenging people around the stigma. I created a product that's still the MindCheck for organizations, for example, is still trying to break the barrier of stigma in organizations. Try to find those courageous leaders that are trying to actually see and measure it and improve it. Because once you start measuring, you see you need to improve things internally. And we're challenging these people, we're challenging these organizations. We're also challenging the government to create something around kind of to expose a little bit more, not expose, but to help people find about their mental health issues and guide them towards appropriate help. There is so much stigma, so much misinformation or lack of literacy, let's say, around mental health still. And I guess that's my big challenge.
Well, thank you so much, Ricardo, for sharing your world and your wisdom with TradeSquare.
No worries, it was a pleasure.
For more information on TradeSquare, head to www.tradesquare.com.au and support Australian business economic recovery and growth with a collaborative approach to the future of business.